Welcome to the Jim Acosta Show on this Monday. Starting a little bit late today, as Michael was just mentioning a few moments ago. I was taking care of my dad earlier today, and so starting a little bit later today. But Michael Cohen is with me, and Michael, we got to just jump right into this because I mean things are escalating very quickly out in California. I thought Trump said he wanted to end the wars. Perhaps he's preparing to ignite one here at home. ABC News reporting 700 Marines in California have been ordered to assist in LA, and they're expected to arrive over the next 24 hours. The Marines are from the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines at 29 Palms, California. Trump was asked about this earlier today. Apparently, he said, "We'll see what happens." This sounds like this is the direction it's heading, Michael. And you and I have talked about this a lot in the past. That this has been the fear for some time, that Trump would try to find a confrontation that he could turn into basically a clash where he can mobilize federal troops and send them into a demonstration like this to see where it could go from there.
You know, Jim, I actually wrote about it at 4 o'clock in the morning. I called it
Yeah.
LA Mayhem, right? Trump's, big, beautiful distraction, because that's really what this is.
Yeah.
This is not about national security. This isn't law and order. This is pure, unfiltered, weapons grade reality show distraction, right? And I've been down this road with him. It's a rerun of the oldest trick in the Trump playbook: create a crisis, redefine reality, and hope that the public is too overwhelmed to notice the man behind the curtain is full of shit. That's just
Yeah.
where we're at.
Yeah.
You know,
The problem,
plain
though,
and
that
simple.
the man behind the curtain who is full of shit has the ability to deploy the Marines and send in the National Guard. And, this is something that has not happened in over 50 years, where the president has deployed the National Guard against the wishes of a governor. And, obviously that tells you how, and I hate using the word unprecedented. I think the word batshit might be more applicable here. I mean, the fact that he's doing this, he's stealing for a fight. He's chomping at the bit. He wants a fight. Earlier today, he said that Tom Homan should arrest Gavin Newsom. He said earlier today, "I would do it if I was Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing." And this is the
You know,
president of the
when
United States, so I'm saying it's a great thing to arrest a governor.
what's amazing is the follow-up question by another journalist. I wish to God that you were there in that room
Yeah.
and that you had free access to ask the right questions, because you were so good at it. But they asked Trump, what would be the criminal charge?
Yeah.
And, what would be the charge that Gavin Newsom should be, should be charged with? And
Yeah.
his answer was so typical, as far as a non-answer, for being a lousy governor, right?
Yeah.
For creating this mess.
He was talking
For-
about high-speed trains or something. He was getting into
Yeah,
that.
the cost overruns on the high-speed trains in California and all that, and the wildfires and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, right, right. So therefore, the governor
Yeah,
state
grandpa
of
needs a cookie.
Tennessee.
He when he can't, he can't complete a thought as to how the governor could be charged without going to like his old rally routine. You know what I mean? Talk about the high-speed trains and stuff. You know what I mean?
Of course, I know what you mean. I mean, he's sitting there and he's talking about the guy should be incarcerated because of the wildfires. Well, then what about, say, the governor of Oklahoma or Tennessee, where they
Yeah.
have hurricanes and tornadoes and so on, and houses get destroyed and people
Yeah.
unfortunately lose their lives? Not that, he and Elon with Doge didn't cut FEMA, right? So now let's arrest those governors too. You know what my
Yeah.
big fear, Jim? You know what my biggest fear is?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
As I predicted, unfortunately, too many times, this is a litmus test. He's trying to every day, every second of the day, figure out just how far that he could push you.
Yes.
How far can he go before the pushback stops him? So first he started with the National Guard. He, of course, lies to the American people. President Trump lies to the American people and says that the chief of the LAPD thanked him. thanked him
Yeah.
for doing what he did, because without them, meaning the National Guard, things would be really bad. But now they're
Yeah.
under control. First of all, things don't look like they're under control to me. The whole place, according to Trump, is on fire, like it's
Yeah.
wildfires. There's looting and killings going on, and rapings and murders and every other adjective that he has in his head, right? The
Yeah.
same that he described Mexicans, the same he described the Venezuelans, the same he describes as everybody. And then
Yeah.
you say to yourself, well, first of all, that's a lie. The LAPD chief did not, I think it's McDowell, did not thank him for anything
They
other
don't
than
want it.
turning.
They don't want the National Guard coming in. They don't want the Marines to come in. The LAPD said over the weekend that these were peaceful protests. Now, obviously, you have bad apples in the crowd, you have instigators in the crowd, you have, there's property damage that happens occasionally from time to time, but these are matters that the LAPD can handle. This is why you have a police department with this kind of riot response capability.
My,
If something were to break out, if things were to spiral and get out of control, the LAPD can handle it. And if things get really bad, then the governor can say, yes, bring in the National Guard. But that's why we do things that way in
and
this
you're listening
country.
to Jim
Yeah.
Cohen. Oh, you see the destruction that's going on and the
Yeah.
vandalism that's going on? Yeah, somebody took a black can of spray paint and they wrote "fuck ICE" on the side
Yeah.
of a wall.
Yeah.
That to him that's it. I mean, that
Yeah.
person who did that should have their hands chopped off.
Well, but Michael, the thing that is so glaringly obvious in all of this is that he is trying to ignite the flames here. He is the arsonist with the matches here. He is trying to instigate things, trying to push things to the brink, so it does spiral out of the control of the local authorities, and you have to have a federal response. That's what he wants. When he's saying over the weekend, well, the protesters can't wear masks. What is he talking about? Protesters can wear masks if they want to. And by the way, the ICE officers are wearing masks and are wreaking havoc all over the country, pulling the little kids away from their mixed status parents. When he uses language like that, when he calls the protesters insurrectionists, he knows what he's doing. He's trying to hit people's pressure points and instigate and cause trouble. That's exactly what he's trying to do.
And last night I was on, the whole weekend I was on 4 different MSNBC shows. But last night I was on with Ayman Mahdoun and Carol Rampell and Antonia. And I turned around and I said to them something which came to my mind, that this is all a distraction. He's like the great frickin' Houdini when it comes
Yeah.
to politics. He doesn't want us talking about the war with Elon Musk. He
Oh,
doesn't
he
want
definitely
us
doesn't want
talking
that.
about the big, beautiful bill, or the
Yeah.
real, big piece of shit bill, right? Which is that
He
bloated.
has no wins. He has no wins. Yeah.
Well, Jim, you took the words right
Oh,
out
okay.
of my
There.
mouth.
Go ahead.
And that's what I love about you. You understand me, right?
Yeah.
He was losing,
Losing.
and I made this comment earlier on a different MSNBC show with Ali Velshi, where I turned around and I said, when they got into the war of the platforms, X versus Truth Social, so Elon Musk put out a couple of very nasty tweets, posts, whatever they call them now.
Yeah. We might as well get into it. Let's
100
get into it. Yeah.
180 million views. And I want to say that again for our listeners. 180 million views. Trump was losing this war
Yeah.
bigly
How
because
how
of his
badly was Trump losing his mind over this? How much did that rock his world?
it really rocks his world. And
Yeah.
why? Well, here's what ultimately happened. He puts out his retort on both the X platform and also on Truth Social.
Yep.
And on the X platform, he gets 172,000 views
Yeah.
versus 180 million. He knew he was losing. And the worst part is that these acolytes, enablers, sycophants that surround Trump, they actually read many of the comments,
Oh
as
yeah.
did I. And those comments were all more favorable by a wide majority to Elon Musk than they were to Donald Trump. So that
Yeah.
pissed him off. Then couple that with the attacks on the big, beautiful bill coming in
Oh, yeah.
from GOP senators.
Marjorie
And he
Taylor Greene
realized,
was going off on it.
yeah. So he's
Yeah,
like, okay, you see this coin? All right, which hand? Right?
exactly.
And that's what's going on here,
The three
where
card Monty. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. It's the three
yeah,
card Monte in Central Park. And all of a sudden, he needs a distraction. He
yeah.
needs a
Trump wants to
disaster.
know, do you want to buy one of these watches I got on my arm here? I got,
Exactly. And, that's what he needs. He
yeah,
needed distraction. And in order to create the right distraction, you have to create the disaster. And I think you put it in a very interesting way. It's like he brought the gasoline to the house fire, right?
that's it.
And he's
He is the
lighting
arsonist. He's the arsonist in chief. And I once had an advisor back in the first Trump administration who said, and this was during the whole effort to overturn the 2020 election when the advisors were starting to go, rogue on Trump. And they were saying behind the scenes, this one said to me behind the scenes, he said, the arsonist will always light the match. Trump will always light the match. He is an arsonist looking for a fire to start. And that is what he sees right now in California. The fact that this got started over what? People in a Home Depot parking lot.
four
I'm
people.
so, I'm sorry. What is going on here with these ICE raids? Stephen Miller is apparently losing his shit behind the scenes. That's the reporting back here in Washington. He's losing his shit behind the scenes because they can't meet these deportation numbers that they want to meet. Hello, Stephen. Earth to Stephen. Not every migrant in this country is a dangerous, violent criminal. The lie that you and Trump told during the 2024 campaign that you're going to round up all these criminals and gang members, you're not doing that. You're rounding up little kids. You're rounding up parents. You're rounding up day laborers. You failed. The mass deportation thing failed. And what is taking place right now in Los Angeles is an example of that. They need a distraction to distract everybody from the fact that this is failing.
If I can just jump on your analogy of Trump being the arsonist who brings the gasoline to the
Yeah.
bonfire, there's another aspect to that cannot be ignored. He also always tries to make himself out to be the hero. This is classic Munchausen by proxy. He
Yeah.
wants to light the fire, stand there, let it go ablaze, and then come in with a fire extinguisher to put it out so that everybody can praise him. It's all
Yes.
about the praise for the fearless leader. But he's doing something very ugly, Jim, something you and I talk about quite often offline. He's creating a crisis that rallies the base, his
Yes.
base, and blurs his failures.
They have
We
no
all
win.
know,
Yep,
we
that's right.
all know that immigration, that this issue is one of the few that he's still polling under the 50% mark, but he's not deep in the woods like he is with the economy or
Yeah.
with Medicare, Medicaid, Social
His numbers are
Security.
not all the way down the toilet, but they're spinning at the top of the bowl. That's where he is right now on immigration. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
he's using the immigration, as the distraction. And it's
Yes.
really terrible. But you got to say this to the American people, at least to those people who are coming out there. Good for them. But as I also said on MSNBC, if they would all leave, go home. Don't give up the fight. Just get off the streets.
Yeah,
Don't mess
I
up
agree
the
with you.
highways.
Yeah,
Don't do that. You would take all the power away from Trump
I agree with you.
and from this facade, this
That
bullshit.
this is the thing that I'm most worried about is that the last thing you want to do when we talk about the arsonists with the matches, the last thing that these protesters want to do is hand Trump more matches and gasoline. Don't do it. If there's anybody involved with the protests or the demonstrations watching this, or if they watch it later on when the recording goes out, watches it with Michael's feeds and so on, please do not play into Trump's hands. I saw this up close and personal when the George Floyd protests broke out in Washington, and Trump tried to send the forces after those folks. They fired rubber bullets on those people, doused them with chemical agents. And at that time, you remember this, Michael, he said to Mark Esper, the defense secretary at that time, can we shoot the protesters? And so that's the thing that I'm concerned about with what's happening right now in LA, is that he is heading in that direction. But,
Jim, I'm
yeah,
sorry. Jim,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Did you
yeah.
see? Did you see? I saw a clip. There was a young female journalist, a reporter, was
Yes.
there on the scene. Dude, she got shot in the leg with a rubber bullet. All of a
I
sudden,
saw that Australian reporter, I think it was
Australian
hit.
reporter. She's standing
Yeah.
there with the microphone talking. All of a sudden, you hear and you see where the bullet came from. It came
And,
from a guy that was maybe 50
oh,
feet
you can
away.
watch it right on camera. I saw it. No, and that's the problem with this. The problem with this whole thing is that it just takes one little incident. It takes one little thing to set off, a very violent situation. And Trump knows this. That's why he is throwing in the National Guard. That's why he wants to deploy the Marines. And
Every
they want this to spiral.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're so right. Every time that he's in trouble, whether it's with the big beautiful bill, whether it's with something else with Elon Musk,
yeah,
he conjures up a new enemy. Immigrants, protesters, billionaires that
yeah.
are Democrats, tells America we should be afraid of all of them. He goes on
Correct.
and he floods the zone with bullshit, right? While the real fire is burning behind him. And I'm
And,
with
and
you
let me
on
and let me and let
we
me
as the American citizenry,
yeah.
we cannot let him fool us. We can't
And let me
let
tell
those
you,
things happen.
when he gets humbled like this, when he gets a serving of humble pie like he did with Elon Musk, that is when he lashes out. That is when he becomes his most dangerous form of himself. Remember, after the George Floyd protests, there were those stories that he was hiding in the basement at the White House, and it was after that that they cleared Lafayette Park very violently, and he
Yep.
had that photo op in front of St. John's Church where he held up the Bible upside down. So people need to understand that there's a pattern here, and he is going into Los Angeles and he wants to go crack some skulls. He said on Truth Social, if they spit, we will hit. This is what he's saying. This is a statement from the President of the United States concerning the catastrophic Gavin Newsom inspired riots going on in LA. I mean, this is what he says on Truth Social. Okay, if they spit, we will hit. Hello, on January 6th, they were beating cops. They were tasing cops. They were beating up people like our friends Michael Cohen and Harry Dunn. And Trump pardoned them. So please spare me the bullshit, about how he wants to rally around law enforcement and defend law enforcement. He betrayed law enforcement by pardoning those criminals who were violently attacking police officers in the Capitol on January 6th. So the hypocrisy knows no ends. But the fact of the matter is that this is a dangerous situation.
This is what we have to all start calling it. Remember how I always say we have to talk like Trump and bumper sticker slogans? Fake
Yeah,
crisis politics.
yeah,
That's what this is. This is fake crisis politics.
yeah.
And I say that not as a guess, as somebody who's lived it with the guy that's doing it right now.
Yeah. And I got to ask you about something else, a couple of things. One is this big military birthday thing that he wants, this dictator Kim Jong-un style birthday he wants to throw for himself on the National Mall. He's been wanting this for years, Michael. What is going on in his head? Why does he want this?
So what inspired it is a great question, Jim, and I do actually have the answer for you. Two
Yeah.
things. Two, not one, but two. The first one was Bastille Day.
Yeah,
When he saw that I remember him saying to me
that's right.
how cool that was. He thought it was the neatest thing in the world. Like, look at all those tanks. Ours are better. Our men, our women, our service members, they're better. And he goes, that would be cool. Second was Kim Jong-un doing it. You
Ah,
remember that? And he likes that authoritarian, that dictator thing where everybody turns their hands and they salute him as they're walking by. He feels like a god. Remember,
yeah,
every second of every day, he must have his ego stroked.
yeah.
Otherwise, he falls back into some sort of negative despair.
But how disturbing is it going to be if come this Saturday when they have this dictator birthday party for him, and you've got military forces on the streets in Los Angeles acting, pretty much in an unconstitutional way. I mean, you have to have a serious insurrection taking place. Well, sort of like the one he instigated on January 6th, for even the possibility to enter the equation that you might invoke the Insurrection Act, where you might need to use federal troops in a domestic situation where you're quelling a disturbance.
Well, I hate to be one that's going to say to the great Jim Acosta, and
Yeah, yeah,
Jim and I, to those of you, we're about 4,000 folks with us. There really should be 100,000 with us because that's how important this conversation is. I know Jim a very long time, probably one of the best journalists and one of the best reporters of all time. Let me be very clear. The question that he just asked, it's almost like a rhetorical question. You
yeah,
don't
yeah,
think he's thinking about any of the Marines, the National Guardsmen that are there in LA. As far as he's concerned, let them open fire on everybody in LA. He doesn't care. Nothing is going to interfere with his party, with his
yeah.
parade, right? As the old song goes, don't rain on my parade. That's going to be
So
the
your
theme
theory is
song.
that this will all be over before his birthday party comes around.
And if it's not, he doesn't care, Jim. He's
Yeah,
not going to lose 1 second of sleep over this. He's not going to think about this for 1 second during the
yeah,
250th anniversary of the Army, which is really a ruse, a guise, so that he can actually have a birthday parade. He's not
yeah.
thinking about LA. He's not thinking about Jim Acosta or Michael or anything other than this is my day. Look at me. As a child, I played with metal Tonka tanks, or
Yeah.
I played with NASA rockets or missiles, or you remember they used to have those SCs, those rockets
Oh,
you used
yeah.
to shoot up in your backyard,
Of
right?
course.
Which always ended up
I
somehow
had a lot of
going to
GI Joes growing up. I had all the GI Joes.
right. I had a lot of those SC's rockets. Unfortunately, most of them ended up through my neighbor's window.
Yeah,
But now Trump has the real stuff. He's the
yeah,
kid playing with the real toys.
yeah. He is, and with the same kind of mindset. But one other thing I want to ask you about, Michael, before we get going is, you know, and this is something that maybe you and I have not talked about before. What is his deal with Hispanic people? What's his deal with Latino people? Why
Yeah.
why does he have a problem with Latino people? Because I've been trying to I wrote about this over the weekend too, and I've been scratching my head over this. Has any Latino screwed him over the way Elon Musk screwed him over late last week? I mean, I can't think of a Latino who's accused Donald Trump of being in the Epstein files, but Elon Musk did it, a South African immigrant. Why is he so pissed off at Latino people? This has been going on for 10 years.
Well,
What's his deal?
it's not specific to Latinos, to Hispanics, to Mexicans, to he certainly has no problem with the Venezuelans, not the women anyway. He they were
Well,
some
yeah, that's true.
they were some of his favorite at the Miss Universe pageant. But
Yeah.
what he has a problem with is anyone who is non-white. That what look at the countries that he just now banned from the
Yep.
United States on that travel ban. Jim,
Correct.
you and I talked about this in the past. I'm going to remind you. Remember when I turned around and said to you it was February of 2017, either February or March of 2017, and I went into his office and he asked me, "What do you think of my travel ban?" And I turned around and I said to him, permission to speak freely? So he goes, of course. I said, you fucking kidding me, right? That's not a travel ban. That's a Muslim ban.
Yeah.
I said, Mr. President, I said, you're in effect putting forth a policy that bans a religion from our country. I said, and the
Yeah.
crazy thing is, you actually have friends, you're not even aware, but they happen to be Muslim. I said, so what are you going to do? Tell them to leave? Tell them they're not allowed into the country? I said, I don't understand. Steve Miller, Steve Bannon, they'll get it right the next time. I said, next time? There should be no next time. You know that. And that's why, in fact, that it ended up failing.
Yeah.
Down the road, they tried to reinstate it, but it never
Oh,
had
he
the
tried
same.
over and over, and he's trying again to get it reinstated. He's trying to impose a new travel ban on all these different countries,
And
non-white countries, as you correctly put.
oh,
And and this is his deal. And to me though, there is a pattern here. There's a pattern on his part and on Stephen Miller's part, and going after Latino people. And I have to say, as much as I want everybody to be peaceful out there and be polite as humanly possible out there on the streets protesting, damn right people have a right to protest over this. I mean, this is a weaponized policy of hate that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller are trying to ram down everybody's throats in this country. And to me, when you round up little kids who are U.S. citizens with cancer, as he has done, when you're ripping mothers away from their children out on the streets, like they've done with these ICE agents wearing masks, when you're going after mayors and judges and threatening to arrest governors and members of Congress and so on and so forth, I'm sorry. The jig is up. It's obvious. It is as obvious as and as plain as the nose on your face. I mean, this is just out and out government sanctioned racism.
it sure is. And,
Yeah.
so to those people who may not be aware, Jim's background is from Cuba,
My
right?
dad's Cuban. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So, my father is from Poland. My mom from the States. My grandmother is from Argentina, from Buenos Aires. I mean, I have my great grandfather from Italy, my great grandmother from Odessa.
Yeah.
We're from all over the place. I
That's what
can't
makes this
turn
country
around
great.
and
Yeah.
that's you take the words out of my mouth again. It is what makes us all great, and it's
Yeah.
not just against nationalities and so on. He has the same issue with women.
Yeah.
It's not just Hispanics. It's not just Hispanic men. It's the same. It's women as well, which is why it's so easy for him to be cruel to them. The Separation Act is taking children away from the parents, taking them, separating the husbands and the wives, or the children from the moms. He
Yeah.
doesn't care because he looks at everybody as beneath him. If you are not a white, male, Christian nationalist,
Yeah. But I
he,
but I raised the question. I raised the question. Had any non-white person attempted to hose Donald Trump in the way that Elon Musk did last week? Elon Musk, South African immigrant, accuses the president of the United States of being in the Epstein files. I mean, I've heard a lot of people take, different pot shots at Trump over the years and in all sorts of forms of insults and so on. But my goodness, I mean, I've never heard anybody go after Trump the way that Elon Musk did. I mean, I think Trump should, reassess, which countries he's pissed off at, because it seems to me,
yeah.
Elon Musk makes a strong case.
Well, let me say in conclusion, just regarding this Jeffrey Epstein thing, and I've been very, very clear about it.
Yeah.
I am not taking the knee. I am not trying to hide something. I have hid nothing literally since the day I was first subpoenaed to testify, and I will always speak the truth. I have been, I was by Trump's side for almost a decade and a half.
Yeah.
I knew and I know Trump better than almost anybody. In fact, I always would say I know him better than his own kids because he was more intimate with me in terms of things that you don't tell your kids, but you're willing to tell a friend, a confidant, a consigliere. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in Jeffrey Epstein's files because he's in his black book, but there are no allegations that I am aware of, legitimate allegations that would tie Trump to the misdeeds, the disgusting
Well,
misdeeds that were
yeah.
done
Well,
by Epstein.
we're gonna have to wait and see. I mean, I'll take your word for it, Michael, from based on what you know. But it seems awfully fishy to me that they will not release those files. And I'm not casting any aspersions. I'm not making any allegations. I'm not making any accusations. It is strange you know, that the far right for years has been clamoring for the release of those files. And for some reason, they don't want to do it. And
He may be protecting somebody else,
yeah,
right?
who
You know,
knows?
there's
We'll
many
see.
reasons that it could be, but I'm telling you, if it and when people say to me, "Oh, well, you know, what are you taking?" Look, I have been asked basically every single question that
Yeah.
anybody could think of, and I have testified honestly,
Yeah.
truthfully, and accurately. And I'm telling you that in the 15 years that I was by this guy's side, that none of this
You
ever
didn't see
came
it.
up, except
All
for
right.
one time a Jane Doe, and that case was dropped, not because I forced it to be dropped or because of anything other than Jane Doe didn't exist. We sent a
Yeah.
private investigator to the address, and it was a vacant lot in the Bronx.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but and I appreciate you coming on today, Michael. My question is that, I mean, Elon Musk went after Trump hard last week. Maybe Trump should be focusing his energies on Elon Musk and not on
Agree.
every Hispanic
He
person in this
will,
country. Yeah.
and he
All right.
will. Rest assured, that's only round one. Jim,
Yeah.
always great to see you, my brother. Glad that
Good to
we're
see you,
able to
Michael.
do this today.
All right. Sounds good. Good to see you, my man.
The
Thanks a
same,
lot.
pal.
Appreciate
You
it.
got it.
Okay.
Always.